following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. It's game time. This is The Game on News Radio KMAN.
If I can be honest with you, I'm not too up to date what's going on in the sports world today. I've been too busy bidding on things for no stone unturned. I've been in some bidding wars today. Very busy.
It's going to be a long day tomorrow, isn't it?
I mean, that's just what I do, though.
That's true.
When these, if it's the Power Cat auction, the K-State Cat backers, the Manhattan Cat backers, no stone unturned, when they have these online auctions going on with some pretty cool stuff up for grabs, I got to get on in the action. Mm-hmm. And I finally ended my drought by winning all that stuff, the memorabilia from the K-State women hosting the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
And I gave my dad one of the coolers and the basketball I got. The rest of it is in Lindsay's shed. Because I'm not sure what to do with an 80-foot banner.
I still say we hang it down the hall as we're, redoing things.
Yeah. A little decoration. Yeah, keep it around for decoration when it's the season.
Yeah.
The March Madness season, the most wonderful time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the game. Mitch Fortner, Trey Coverdale, and AJ Shaw. It is a big show today because of No Stone Unturned. Their gala is coming up on Friday. Meanwhile, their golf scramble Friday and Saturday, and they're getting ready.
They had to pick the 100-degree days again,
and they're getting ready to move into that new building. But we'll catch up with Eric Wolford, former offensive line coach for Alabama. He leaves along with Nick Saban. I believe now he's with Kentucky. Curry Sexton will be in studio as well, and potentially a third former Wildcat will be in studio as well. But they're coming in at 5:10. They'll be in here for a couple of segments to talk No Stone Unturned, catch up on what everybody's doing, and ask them a few other questions as well while we have them in studio. My top 100 TV things of all time will continue at 5:45-ish with 35 through 31. And we're going to tackle a whole bunch of stuff here in this first hour, including, are the Royals doing okay? I think this is a good time to catch up on that because of what happened yesterday, a doubleheader with the Royals or with the Cardinals yesterday at Busch Stadium.
Yeah, baby.
And that was a good day.
It was
for
a
the
very
Royals,
good day.
So it's a great time to catch up and see if the Royals are doing okay.
Anytime the team from St. Louis loses, this Cub fan is quite happy.
I figured you'd be happy too.
Yes,
absolutely.
I am very happy every time that cheating team from St. Louis loses.
Oh, cheating, huh?
Yeah, remember when they hacked into the Astros database?
Right around the same time that the Astros were beating on trash cans.
Yeah, kind of, but
yeah.
Still, though, cheating team from St. Louis.
Hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I mean, there's like something going around about somebody's trying to call out. I have to pull it up. I'm forgetting the name now. Norvell from
Colorado State. Jay Norvell.
Yeah. Well, but at Nevada. K-State saw him when he was at Nevada.
Correct.
When they played a couple of years ago, and now he's at Colorado State. Well, they have a wide receiver that was in the portal and was really good this past season, and he's trying to say teams are tampering, trying to call him out. I'm like, good. And K-State was one of the names that got brought up. I'm like, good. That's what everybody's doing, right? I mean,
there's a little irony to that, given that Norvell took half of and closer to 2/3 of Nevada's team with him when he left to take the Colorado State job.
Is that tampering, though?
No, not tampering at all. No.
I mean, he's probably not calling them, right? He's like in person. Hey, mind if I come over? Got something to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
right.
I'm leaving. You want to come with me? Very cool interview that was posted earlier today by Casey Online, or not Casey, I'm sorry, Wildcat NIL, their Cat Talk. And Curry Sexton, who will be in studio in our next hour, I'm going to ask him a little bit about this, but just recently recorded an interview, and that was posted today on YouTube, speaking with Dylan Edwards, former Colorado running back for one season, of course, from the state of Kansas, played at Derby High School, And I watched him play twice, just an electric player. And, boy, had the breakout games against TCU, the national runner-up a couple of years ago, and now he's a Wildcat. But it's been, of course, following along as a K-State fan, it's been a unique run for Dylan Edwards to finally arrive and sign and this season play for K-State. A kid that was originally committed to K-State a couple of summers ago. That commitment lasted about 5 weeks, and then he's on his way to Notre Dame. A couple of days before signing day, it's no longer going to be Notre Dame, it's going to be Colorado. And it was Colorado. He played his first season in Boulder. He has opened up about that whole story. And there was something he had also mentioned that I think is the real true factor in this whole thing. But I thought, first of all, that was pretty awesome of Dylan to talk about this. Mm-hmm. Because it had been kind of on our side of things. When I say our, I'm just like speaking as a fan, just, with not a whole lot of knowledge on why these decisions are being made. It left to a whole lot of speculation that didn't shine a bright light on Dylan Edwards.
Right.
Because he's just decommitting all over the place and then finally lands and then he's transferring again. But he ultimately becomes a Cat. And I said when this whole thing happened, forget about the past. He's finally where he should be as a Wildcat. He's going to be a major help for K-State. I mean, heck, did we forget about how good he's going to be for K-State in special teams and how hopefully he'll give the special teams unit a jump start where it just hasn't been the last couple of years. So thankfully, Curry Sexton was cool enough to allow me to use some of this audio to, again, paint the picture of this story for Dylan Edwards on how he wound up at K-State. But first, going back a couple of summers ago, decommitting from K-State. Here's Dylan.
I had a relationship with Dylan McCullough. His sons and I played on the same 7-on-7 team. And we had a, cool relationship, and I ended up just talking to him on the phone, and he actually offered me at Indiana. So I had always, been, cool with him, talking with him along all that time, and he was just a great guy. And he's still a great guy. I still talk to him to this day all the time, and he's a really good person, bounce ideas off of, talk ball with, just a cool football coach and just a friend, really. And I just felt like at the time, I just wanted to make that decision for myself, and I'm happy that I got to learn from that situation and all of that transpired because, I wouldn't be where I'm at today or the person I am today.
Yeah, keep the last part of that clip in your mind as we continue to play these other clips and about learning from experiences and grateful for where he's at today. Another part of that answer from Dylan Edwards about decommitting from K-State and then committing a few days later really to Notre Dame, and it wasn't easy for him to decommit.
It definitely was like I'm happy, but dang, I just let, because I had a relationship with the coaching staff, the coaches that's here right now. But, things happen and God, led me back here. So everything that happened, with that Notre Dame and just the flipping situation, that doesn't bother me anymore, knowing that I can make it right all here right now and I'm here for a reason.
It didn't bother him anymore. At one point it did.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way of putting it.
Pretty key part of this story.
Yeah.
Then after that, he decided not to go to Notre Dame, and it was going to be Colorado. But first, why then not to go to Notre Dame?
What's crazy is after I had committed to Notre Dame, I didn't know the schooling requirements. So school like Kansas State from Notre Dame, it's two different. Like you have to have credits in high school or something like that. So my senior year wasn't the normal senior year a player or anybody would have, really. I was taking college courses. I took a lot of math classes and stuff like that just to, go to Notre Dame. I remember I even had to meet my tutor every day in my senior year just to deal with all the stuff I was dealing with, like school-wise, just to get it done and just to even go to a school like that. And I ended up passing all my classes, but at the end of the day, I just felt like what seemed right to me.
Or like to me, it'd be like, man, I don't want to have to deal with all that academic pressure going to Notre Dame.
Right.
I'm definitely one to say, and I'm not saying this is Dylan Edwards, but like just speaking from my, how I grew up and how school just the way school is taught, how a class is taught with somebody just standing up front and lecturing was just never for me. I was never just a book smart guy.
Well, and the other aspect of that you have to remember is the academic side is a big reason why Brian Kelly left to take the LSU job. That Notre Dame's academic requirements are so stringent in what they put on their student athletes as well as just their day-to-day students that Brian Kelly felt that he couldn't compete.
Well, there's a number of schools like
there.
in the Big Ten, that have ran into, maybe that was holding them back a little bit from achieving greatness for decades. Mm-hmm. And it's because of those high academic standards, and they just couldn't find.
It's the old Rick Neuheisel argument about at Colorado during his time there as opposed to what K-State was doing. Well, we don't set the state law that allowed for the acceptance rates to be what they are here in Kansas, but K-State took advantage of that, yes.
So academics probably playing a huge role in Dylan not going to Notre Dame. So then how does Colorado come into play? Here's Dylan.
Coach Prime coached me when I was little, when my family and I lived in Dallas, Texas. We played for an organization called The Truth, which he was the head of the organization. It was his team. And so he coached with my dad on the flag football team I was on. And he was just like, I was always around him. Like, we would go to his house. Like, I'm in his arm. Like, I'm in his arms. Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, I got pictures in my home with me and him just smiling and stuff like that. Just, like, that was like family to me. Like, absolutely. Back when we lived in Texas. So that pretty much just was like, okay, if he's going to offer me right now, 1 week before signing day, maybe God wanted me to just go here and just, figure out my life from there, because I just felt like it was faith. I just wanted to just take a leap of faith, and I did it.
Yeah, he did it. He did pick Colorado. Had already a very strong relationship with Deion Sanders, and a lot of those coaches at Colorado was also a part of that organization. He had already known many more people a part of that program other than Coach Prime. Are we finding a pattern here of decisions Dylan Edwards made based on this? Mm-hmm. Well, let's continue that thought, because, okay, now he's going to leave Colorado after one season. Visiting K-State was a big spark to make his decision to officially come to Manhattan.
Avery had called me when I hit the portal, and he was just telling me, hey, look, I know you got a whole lot of schools calling you, but just come up here and just listen to, like, all the coaches and just come up here, bro. And I told him, okay. I was like, all right, I'll come up here. And literally the same day I hit the portal, I got my ticket for 2 days later. Came up here, and I just felt like I was a junior back in high school again. Just, I don't know, I got on the field, I was just tingling, like everything was just, I don't know, my adrenaline started going, and I don't know, after I got on the field, it just really hit me, like, you gotta get here. Like, you gotta do it. You gotta do it with your friend.
His friend. Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards have been boys since they were in grade school. There was a famous photo going around of them in fourth grade on the football field together.
That's just unfair, by the way.
Is it unfair?
Putting those two together on a fourth grade yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's hope that it carries over here.
Well, did you ever get to watch, I think they were on YouTube, like the full games of when they played against each other in high school, Derby versus Mays. They played each other twice as starters. And Dylan won one, and then Avery won the other. And they're like high-scoring, one-possession contests. Both of them were just absolute classics. So here's the common pattern. I think this is what Dylan has been chasing the whole time. The best relationship he can find. And what I mean by that is there was something, and I don't want to play the clip because I want you to go and listen to this interview and listen to this podcast, get the whole thing, take it all in. There's a clip I didn't play, and that was a number of times Dylan always referenced, his dad is a big mentor of his, Leon, who played at K-State in the early to mid-90s, like 92, 93, 94, in that era, like when you were at K-State,
Yes.
Troy.
Yes.
And always talked. He mentioned a couple of times that his dad would always tell stories about the camaraderie that he had with his teammates and how special that bond was with, Kevin Lockett and company, during that time, and always tell stories about they would always go do this, and they built a bond that lasted forever. And I think I just what I get from this, and I can't tell 100% sure. Like, this is not exactly what Dylan said for sure, but I'm putting the pieces together.
Right.
I think what's really important to Dylan Edwards is that he picks the place that's going to build the best memories, and he's going to have the best stories, and is going to have the most fun with people that he trusts and are friends. Because initially, going to K-State, I think it was just Avery that he knew, but he already had a coaching relationship with people at Notre Dame, had an even greater relationship at Colorado, and then, maybe had a little bit of regret. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit of regret. And again, I don't know that for sure. I mean, there's some follow-up questions I definitely want to ask after listening to this interview. Excuse me. But I hope this put a little bit of rest to the speculation about, all the decisions that were being made over the last couple of years, which leaves me with one more clip to play. This was major speculation about why Dylan has decided to enter the transfer portal out of Colorado, because there's people saying that he was just searching for a payday. Here's Dylan on that topic.
I'm going to be honest with you. When I hit the portal, it was not in any way, shape, or form about chasing something that everyone knows that's famous in the portal. It was not about that. It was, like I told you, where it's going to give me the best experiences, where am I going to be happy, what's a good fit for me, where can I play football and be happy, period.
But here's the deal. Even if he was in the portal to look for more NIL money, I wouldn't blame him one bit for that, because there are a ton of student athletes that are doing that exact thing. But it's probably not 100% just that thing. There's also, it has to be the right fit, because he's got goals, like all these other student athletes that are making a ton of money in NIL. Dylan just potentially happens to be one of them. And if you still hear all these clips and you still have your own speculation or your own thoughts about the whole situation, about how he turned his back on K-State a couple of years ago and could never truly commit to one place, and maybe you're thinking, he could just transfer in the future. Maybe that is the case, but for right now, I think we heard enough that I don't really have any criticisms towards this kid. I think he's more mature. I think he has learned from some decisions he has made. Mm-hmm. And let's also look at it this way. He's now at K-State, and he's going to be pretty good. I mean, probably good enough to make you forget about any criticisms you have, because he's already hasn't even played a snap, and he's a household name.
One of the things that stands out to me about that is what you are hearing is a young man learning how to make grown-up decisions and learning the impact of what those decisions are. We all do that growing up. Honestly, we get to college, and those are the things that are lay in front of us. It comes a little earlier for student athletes in that their college decision is a much different beast than if you and I were just looking at school, usually, unless you are, one of those people that put the 36 on the ACT.
Is that the highest score you can get?
Yes, it is.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I wasn't that far off.
I probably would have got an 18. Is that the test you get points for just signing your name?
No, that's the SAT.
Is it the SAT? I actually never took any of them.
Yeah. The SAT, because that one is scaled on a much different point scale. It's 700, I think, is the norm or the median, and it's 1,600 is the perfect number. Yeah. Anyway.
Didn't take any of them.
Yeah, huh.
What was your ACT score there, AJ? Hold on. I'm going to guess. I'm going to say 30. 30 is a pretty good score. Oh, he's giving me that look like you're joking me, right?
I did not get a 30 on my ACT.
But you took it?
Yeah, I did.
Did you take the SAT or just
I did
the
not
AC?
take the SAT.
I think isn't that more like a regional thing? Like just depending on where you are, like one test is just,
Yeah, it tends to be that way.
you know.
Yeah.
So what was your ACT score?
What was my AC? I think I got a 24.
Is that pretty good?
It's average.
Average?
I think it's average. But granted, that's
Doesn't hurt to be average.
it's the stupid elitism in my head, unfortunately, with academics for where I come from.
Oh, you're not going to like this. 33.
You got a 33?
I got a 33.
Shouldn't you be a doctor or something?
The attorney in the family did put up a 34, so,
Oh, got you. Well, he got you there, didn't he? Yeah. Dylan Edwards, welcome to Manhattan, Kansas. That was a really good sit-down that he had with Curry. If you haven't listened to it, go to YouTube, Cat Talk, Wildcat NIL. Boy, it got like 4,000 views in the first 6 hours or whatever. Really good listen. It's about 45 minutes long. Go give it a listen, and we'll take a break. When we come back, let's take a look at baseball for a moment. Are the Royals doing okay? We'll get an update for our baseball boys coming up next.
You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.
AJ, you took the words right out of my mouth during that Game Sports update with the Royals. They won the doubleheader yesterday over the Cardinals, swept them in a 2-game series. Doubleheader because they got rained out Tuesday night. Yeah, the Royals are going to be above 500 heading into the All-Star break for sure, because there's only 3 games left.
Yes. And, oh, by the way, if you really wanted to look at something, you realize that with their record, they'd be leading the American League West right now?
What do you mean by that?
Seattle has the same record as the Royals.
You said the West. I was like thinking, wait.
Yeah.
My mind went to the Central. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. But the old divisions, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They would be leading the West right now. Seattle is the same record at 51-43. So, yeah.
Well, meanwhile, how about this? The Central's kind of decent right now.
Oof.
Heck, you even have Detroit right now just 4 games below 500. Wasn't expecting that. But right now, Kansas City 7 games back, 51-43, like you said. Minnesota 4.5 back, 53-40 of Cleveland. Let me ask the question first, Troy, because we got to officially ask the question. It's required by contract. Are the Royals doing okay?
They have been able to trim that deficit against the Guardians to 7.5 down from 11 at one point in terms of what they trailed in the division. You've got the Twins that have boosted themselves above Kansas City, but yes, in getting themselves righted again a bit, they are doing well. They did not completely lost the ground that they gained when they had a 10-game winning streak. Yes, they sit right now 8 over 500 overall on the year. But here's another good way to look at it. 51 wins as of today. Last year's win total was 56.
Oh, man. Yeah.
They could literally go into the All-Star break 2 games shy of what their entire season win total was if they would sweep the Red Sox this weekend.
This could be an interesting series because you have a 3-game series at Fenway Park, which AJ was criticizing Fenway Park yesterday, and I've never been, but I don't think it's as bad as it says it is. It's got to be better than Wrigley Field.
I never said it was a bad ballpark.
Well, what'd you say?
I said it's a small ballpark.
But that's it.
It's a very small park.
It is. I mean, why do you think that they had to build monster seats?
Exactly.
37,755 is the
Wrigley
capacity
sits
at
about
Fenway
40.
Park.
Wrigley sits about 40.
Wait. So a stadium that sits about 2,000 less than Wrigley is too small.
When I was there, it felt small.
Because it was built for people that were,
and it's also, Boston. There's
people whose heights are much more like you.
Factually, you're right. Yeah,
but personally, that hurt.
I didn't take that as a personal jab, but whatever. But Wrigley was probably saying because that's super old as well, right?
Yes.
So, are they the 2 oldest ballpark?
They are the 2 oldest.
Are they 2 the
ballparks.
oldest?
Yeah.
Okay. Because Fenway was 1912. When was Wrigley?
1914.
14?
Okay.
Yeah.
The Cubs moved in 16.
Okay.
1916.
Who's playing in Wrigley before the Cubs?
It was what was known as the Federal League had a team there. And so it was originally their ballpark. And then the league folded and Wrigley took over.
Interesting.
The biggest problem with Wrigley is the poles. I mean, if you get a seat behind a pole, it is a bad experience.
Like, are you talking about, like, behind home plate? Well, like Fenway, when you say pole, are you talking about, like, one of the beams?
Yeah, like that holds the upper deck up.
There's a word for it, and I'm blanking on it.
Support beam.
There you
Yeah,
go. Well,
those
something like that.
There
yeah.
are seats that are literally in front of poles, and that's the biggest problem with Wrigley Field.
Obstructed view.
Exactly.
But actually, how many? Well, okay, yeah, because I don't know how many rows, like at Wrigley, how many rows are behind those beams?
15 maybe.
Yeah, because
20?
that would suck,
Yeah.
especially if you can't see home plate. If you can see home in the mound, fine. If there's like a beam, in between, the 60 feet 6 inches, whatever.
The thing about Wrigley is it's nowhere near the disaster, and I'm not saying Wrigley is a disaster, but when you look at it in comparison to the new Soldier Field, I mean, Soldier Field, and Troy actually ranted to me about it one morning, and I agreed with him 100%. Soldier Field is a nightmare, and they have to get out of that toilet bowl of a stadium, and it is a toilet bowl of a stadium.
I miss the old look.
The spaceship landed on top of the
Alien.
The flaw with the old stadium that they had was that the bulk of the seating was at the end zones,
Yep.
basically along the same lines as what Memorial at Nebraska is.
It was also owned by the Park District.
Which meant, none of the concessions, none of the parking.
Well, for Nebraska, I mean, I think that was the only places they could expand.
That is correct.
Is the end zones.
Yeah. Because the main part of the stadium remains the same as it was when it was initially built. Just that they've added on to the one side specifically.
At Wrigley Field, okay, so you talked about sitting behind the beams would just suck.
Yeah.
What's the difference in price?
Cheap. If you sit
Like,
behind a beam.
They're pretty, well, I would imagine so. I mean, they're probably one of the cheapest tickets in the ballpark, but is it a major difference between that and sitting in front of it?
Yeah. I mean, Wrigley Field has some of the most expensive tickets because the Ricketts family, that's just how they are. They've been raising ticket prices ever since the team got good in the mid-2010s.
What's the outfield price?
I've never sat in the outfield, so I don't know off the top of my head.
Rich
but
kid, that's why.
Hey, I've sat in the outfield at games before, just not at Wrigley.
I've sat at the bleachers at Yankee. That's a good time.
Yeah. I should sit in the bleachers at Wrigley before one of these days because the experience out there is great. But the best seats at Wrigley, I think, are the upper deck. But the upper deck is the best seats, I think, in any ballpark.
If you're behind home plate.
Yes.
Yes. I used to get, when I lived in New York City, I'd go to Citi Field all the time.
Yeah.
And they always had $10 student tickets. Just show your student ID, you get a $10 ticket. And the upper, like everybody always tried to sit low. I just go right behind home plate in the upper deck, and it was a perfect spot.
Right.
I remember going to a football game at Stanford. And Stanford's lower level, it's kind of almost too low. The upper deck, like the first 5 rows of the upper deck, is perfect. Mm-hmm. And of course, nobody's sitting there. So you could just sit wherever you want.
Right, yeah.
But
Makes a
Wrigley
big
and Fenway
difference,
don't
yeah.
exactly have
Yeah.
those
You don't have the
luxuries.
option, yeah.
Every seat's pretty much full at every game, I would assume.
If the Cubs are good, yes. Especially when they're good.
Well, they play so many day games as well. I'm surprised they do so well.
That's another thing. And that was when they were not winning World Series, everybody was saying, oh, the problem is they play too many day games. And you could look up the whole – and Troy, you probably remember this when it was going down with the lights and stuff like that in Chicago.
Yeah.
The whole facade about how they couldn't get lights. And they're still having problems. Tom Tunney, who was the old alderman down there, couldn't stand the Ricketts family. Well, he's no longer in there. And they've tried to get more night games in there. Ultimately, they just need to get rid of the stupid ordinance and say, hey, we're going to play night games. But because Wrigley is in a neighborhood, that's a big thing that people need to remember. Because it's in a neighborhood, Wrigleyville, that plays a big role in why they play so many day games.
When a bar shut down there.
It would be, think about this. Think about taking Lombardi. Think about taking Lambeau
Yeah.
and turning that into a baseball stadium and utilizing it 82 games a year. What the reaction would be.
Isn't Lambeau kind of in a crappy area, too?
Well, but it's
Green
a
Bay
neighborhood.
sucks.
but it's in a neighborhood.
Exactly.
And it would completely change the view of those around the ballpark in how they would look at it.
I mean,
they love having the football crowds come in, but if it's 82 games a year, it's a different beast. Or 81 games a year.
Okay.
You wind up getting tired of it.
Anyway, back to my original thought about the series against the Red Sox. I mean, statistically, Kansas City might be a better team. These are two teams that are kind of in the same spot. They're like in the middle of their divisions. It's right before the All-Star break. They're the same amount of games back in their divisions, or not 4 or 5, but 7 or 8 games above 500. You got two pretty even teams.
Red Sox are playing much better than what they were earlier in the season, and have put themselves in a little bit of a spot where now they're competitive in that race, and the Yankees have come back to earth in what is a tough division.
When it comes to stadiums, professional stadiums on my bucket list, number 1 is Fenway Park.
Sure.
I think that's just the most passionate fan base. Maybe.
The most passionate fan base, and sometimes not the most appropriate fan base.
Well, yeah, and I think that's great.
The most offensive fan base.
I wasn't going that far, but depends on what's being said and to whom.
I see Yankee Stadium. Well, I've experienced Yankee Stadium, but I also assume Fenway and probably Dodger takes every game like it's game 1 of the NLDS or NLCS. Like it's the start of the playoffs. Let's go.
Except that Dodger does not sell out for every game.
There's also, we are in kind of a crappy area. Traffic is horrendous getting out of games. There's probably a lot of incentive not to always go to games.
Well, there is that, and you're right, it's a crappy area. It's not exactly a polite group at times. You're absolutely right.
I don't mind a hostile crowd once in a while, don't get me wrong.
No, there have been examples of people getting stabbed in the parking lot. I mean, I think we all remember the Giants fan who got brain damage because he was beaten by a couple Dodger fans.
That wasn't too long ago, right?
Yeah, it was like 2011.
Yeah. Oh, so it's been a while.
It's been a while, but yeah. I mean, it about falls into the same as trying to go to a Raiders game wearing anybody else's gear.
That I wish actually I could have experienced one time, an Oakland game, a Raiders game at the O.co or whatever the hell it's called these days.
The Coliseum.
Yeah, the Coliseum.
The Mausoleum.
Yeah. The Mausoleum, good one.
I remember driving by. I have a friend that lives in that area, and that and the Oracle, right? They're next to each other, but it's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Correct.
Like it's just blah around. There's nothing.
It's such a dump. It's a toxic waste dump.
Close to the airport. I remember I picked up a car there. It was like within walking distance. Like there is nothing around here. This is Oakland. Because I have a friend that lived in the area. Okay. Let's take a break. Hour 1 continues when we come back. Hour number 2, we're kicking off with No Stone Unturned. Eric Wolford, Curry Sexton, Zach Nemechek, all in studio to talk about the Golf Scramble, the Gala, which is this weekend starting tomorrow here in MHK. When we come back, a court wants a test done to see who gets paid in college athletics if we're making these folks employees. We'll explain when we come back.
Your home for K-State sports.
Magruder off in time, got it! And Kansas State stuns Baylor!
This is the...
Back in the game, Mitch Fortner, Troy Coverdale, and A.J. Shaw. No Stone Unturned coming up at 5:10. A couple of things before we get to the NCAA's jurisdiction on amateurism dwindles away. Couple of things. KU has first of all, they announced their non-conference schedule. It's pretty loaded. I mean, you got a whole bunch of blue bloods on there. Meanwhile, they're doing their second round of renovations on Allen Fieldhouse. It's got some KU fans a little bit out of shape. I say some. I can't really give you a good, estimate on a percentage or anything. I've just seen some reaction on Twitter. But Travis Golf announcing the second round of renovations at Allen Fieldhouse there in Lawrence, where they're going to do a lot of work on the concourse in the upper levels to make it look more modern. I mean, for a while, like the booth, it was just basically guts
of
a stadium. Which honestly, I don't mind that look. I kind of like the old school look, but they're trying to get with the times. And they're also putting a new video board up, like above the court.
Okay.
Which the common complaint about that was if you're in the lower levels, it's hard to see.
Sure.
And they're going to also put in the corners, a couple of corners there at Allen Fieldhouse, some video boards. Because of those video boards, that is going to bring the capacity of Allen Fieldhouse down 1,000. That's a pretty big chunk, actually.
Yes, that
I mean,
is.
Allen Fieldhouse fills up, obviously. So I understand some folks getting a little upset. I don't know exactly what corners and what seats are going to lose. Does this affect? Because they put the media way up there.
Yes.
They also put the opposing parents
Yes.
way up there.
Yes.
So are they going to start moving us around?
Oh, boy.
But yeah, that's going to drop Allen Fieldhouse from 16.3 to 15.3 in attendance. I haven't seen anything on air conditioning though. So, all right. So this comes out earlier today. This from the Associated Press with this court case in Philadelphia that college athletes whose efforts primarily benefit their schools may qualify as employees deserving a pay under federal wage and hour laws. A U.S. appeals court ruled today, which is another setback for the NCAA. The court in their latest challenge to the NCAA's long-held notion of amateurism in college sports said that a test should be developed to, basically differentiate between students who, and this is actually their words, who play sports for fun, play college sports for fun, and those whose effort crosses the legal line into work. Which I'm a little confused
What?
by why are we needing to do a test? Well, I mean, I guess they look at it this way. Look, everybody practices. But if you're just sitting on the bench, are you making this university any money? No. I think
It's not exactly
that's
for
how
fun.
I see the difference,
It's not
though.
exactly for fun, though.
They're just here for a good time. They're just here for the ride.
If that's the case, it's intramurals, buddy.
Riding the pine.
Good grief.
So are we going to start having, at the
Wow.
front doors of the facilities, punch, time in clock? You start punching your clock,
Punch the clock when you
Yeah.
come in.
your time cards.
Oh, what an ill-termed ruling.
I mean, maybe there's something I'm missing that I just don't understand. I've been pretty open. I'm not following this every
Yeah.
day. I'm more of an on-the-field kind of guy. The politics of college athletics honestly have, not like with NIL and transfer portal, like those kind of things, I understand.
That's what I'm going to
but-
look into and talk over with little brother, given that he's the employment lawyer. But just that sentence, to me, is a very is just not an well thought out way of looking at things in college athletics. It belies what is really going on in that. Okay, are you going to say that Division III athletes are doing it for fun because there are no scholarships at that level? Is that how you're going to term it? Are you going to? I mean, it just the entire premise of that argument is just odd. It doesn't have a basis in reality of what college athletics is.
I've never in my mind thought of student athletes by two things. Either are these guys here to have fun or are they here to play sports or, here to work. You know what I mean? Like, I've never looked at it that way. So I don't know where this phrasing comes from. It is a bit odd. And again, maybe there's something I don't understand. But just using the phrase differentiate between students who play sports, college sports for fun.
Yes.
I think is that their way of saying, like, I think it is. Like, this is just their wording of saying there's those athletes that actually earn the college money that people are there to see, and those that are just filling up a roster and scholarship spots and they're riding the bench.
Oof. Which is a complete misnomer for what. Yeah, that is a complete misnomer for what their philosophy even is.
Yeah, I mean,
of being
it's a
part
kick
of
to the
those
crotch
teams.
for a lot of people.
Yeah, that is a ill-formed view. That is an ill-formed ruling, in my opinion. But I'm not the attorney. We'll ask Curry.
Yeah. We have an attorney in our lobby right now, and we're going to get some legal advice. Stick around for 510. Let's take our last break, and when we come back, we got to talk about a hire that Gene Taylor has made officially to take over for Cliff Rivelto, and this is a home run hire. It's coming up next.
This poor man is crying. Why? He missed the game. You know, you can always check out the Game podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and at newsradiokman.com.
All right, before we wrap up hour number one, Gene Taylor, you son of a gun. You did it again. Doesn't quit.
Nope.
Just hires nothing but the best. Earlier today, it was announced officially by K-State Athletics that they have found their replacement to be the new director of track and field and cross country at K-State to replace the legend, Cliff Rivelto, with a guy that just happened to be the national assistant in track and field 4 times. Mm-hmm. National Assistant of the Year.
Nice.
4 times at a powerhouse known as Arkansas. So another addition from Arkansas coming to K-State. You kind of like that, don't you? But his name is Travis Geffert, who has a lot of assistant work under his belt. He has been places like as a grad assistant at Central Missouri. He was an assistant at Northern Iowa. He was the head coach for a short time at Northern Iowa. He had 2 stints at Arkansas, also had a handful of years at Tennessee. Now he officially becomes the director of cross country and track and field at K-State. Coaching honors, again, 4-time National Assistant Coach of the Year.
Wow.
He is a 5-time South Central Region Men's Indoor Assistant Coach of the Year. It's a lot of Assistant Coach of the Year type of honors that he has received. Many conference championships, like over 30.
That's great.
Conference championships in his career. So congratulations to K-State Athletics with another great hire. Hopefully we can get him on the show here in the near future to talk about, his plan for K-State, how to take it potentially to the next level, all that kind of stuff, as this is a big job for him. This is the biggest job he's ever had in his life. Wonder if he took like the Jerome Ting approach. A long time as assistant coach, just waited for the right time to pick the right spot. All right, we have wrapped up hour number 1 officially. Hour number 2, of course, we'll take a look at, once again, my top 100 TV themes of all time, 35 through 31. But a big chunk of hour number 2 coming up next in studio. Eric Wolford, Curry Sexton, Zach Nemechek, former Cats, all a part of No Stone Unturned, in studio to talk about the 16th annual Wildcats for No Stone Unturned. They're about to move into that brand new building there, a little north of town on Highway 24. It's a good-looking building.
I know.
We'll talk more with those gentlemen about No Stone Unturned when we come back as you're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.